Yes, I still call the app Twitter, and let's be honest, outside of hardcore Elon meat slobbers, who the fuck actually calls it X? Genuinely one of the worst rebrands I've ever seen. But anyway, outside of sharing a live stream link or the occasional retweet, I don't post on Twitter anymore. Twitter was already garbage before the Elon takeover, but after, holy shit, the garbage just increased by tenfold. And after I finally got a Blue Sky invite code, I was like, you know what, fuck it. This site is a toxic hellhole. I don't want to post here anymore. I'll go chill over on the other site that has a much more positive atmosphere. And as far as microblogging sites go, that's where I've been posting for months now. I have no plans whatsoever to migrate back to Twitter. And here's something that's been annoying me for a while now. People who constantly complain about how garbage Twitter is, especially after the Elon takeover, but they still post on the damn site. Blue Sky is no longer invite only. They recently opened up the site for anyone to join. And I've seen people who have joined the site say, well, I would post there more, but I get more engagement on Twitter, all the while they still complain about how garbage Twitter is. And I'm wondering, how the fuck do you expect the site to grow if everyone just collectively has this mentality that, well, the alternative isn't really that worth it because not as many people are there, and therefore I'll stick to Twitter. No shit, there's not as many people there. No shit, you're not gonna get as much engagement as you do on Twitter. And I understand, Blue Sky doesn't have hashtags yet, it doesn't have native video support yet, it does have GIF support, but that's a little funky. So yes, you can make the argument that in some aspects Blue Sky is still not up to snuff with other social media platforms, and they obviously have to work on that. However, it is still the responsibility of the user base to help build a large enough and worthwhile community that would convince someone who is on the fence to jump ship from Twitter and head over to the other platform. Yes, that obviously takes time, and if Blue Sky ever does become a main player in the social media game, clearly that is not going to happen overnight, and no one should reasonably expect that to be the case. But if you really hate current day Twitter and the way Elon is running it, and I don't blame you whatsoever for feeling that way, put your fucking money where your mouth is and stop posting on there and head over to an alternative and convince your friends to do the same. No social media site is an overnight success. What, do you think everyone dropped MySpace for Facebook the day Facebook launched? No. Over time, as people became increasingly dissatisfied with MySpace, people began shopping around for alternatives, and there were sites like Facebook and Twitter. At the time, these sites were the new kids on the block and seemed promising, and so people took the risk and migrated over to these other platforms, and other people began following suit when they saw that more and more of their friends were migrating over to these other platforms. And the key word there is risk. Obviously, a risk is involved if you're going over to another platform, especially a platform that's relatively new, even if all of your friends are still on the other platform. But if you don't take the risk, how the fuck would you know if the risk is worth it in the end? And if you're like, oh, but my friends are still over on Twitter, be the friend in the group that migrates over to a new site, tell your friends in said friend group how cool this site is, and convince them to move over. And this is how a social media site organically grows. People taking a risk and posting over to the new social media site, convincing their friend group to follow them, and then those friends convince their friends to follow them, so on and so forth. But if you don't want to even fucking try to take the initiative, don't be surprised when the alternative bombs and the only option you have left is the site you despise. Like I said, Blue Sky is now open for everyone to join. There is no more excuses. And it's not the only alternative site. There's also Mastodon, there's Threads, though fuck Threads, I hate Meta so much. I'm personally rooting for Blue Sky because 1, that's the platform I'm on, and 2, it's the one that's the most reminiscent of Twitter before the Elon takeover. But bottom line is, you have all these different avenues that are not Twitter, so if you hate Twitter oh so much, stop fucking posting on there and join one of these alternative sites. The only people I can understand who are hesitant to leave Twitter are artists who take commissions from Twitter. In that case, there is a legitimate financial incentive to stay on Twitter, but even still, I implore these artists to join other sites, make a name for themselves on these other sites, and help build a community on an alternative platform, so therefore someday they won't need to rely on Twitter for their income anymore. But for a vast majority of Twitter users, you're not making a fucking dime off of your shit posts. So fuck your engagement. Again, if you hate the site oh so much, instead of complaining on that very site that you hate, go over to an alternative. Is the little heart number and retweet number really that fucking important to you? If so, then I really don't know what else to say besides, wow, that is absolutely pathetic. When I was 12, 13, and kinda when I was 14, I would post several times a day on Miiverse. I made a lot of friends there that I had a blast talking to, but I was getting increasingly frustrated with the site because I kept getting posts taken down, I kept getting banned off of the site for reasons I felt at the time were erroneous, though I do look back at some of those old reports and I'm like, yeah, I can kind of understand why this wasn't appropriate for a children's website now. And then one day an update was announced that you would only be allowed to post there 30 times a day. This included comments, so I would now be severely hindered on how often I could talk to my friends on there. And the people I was speaking to on Miiverse was the last thing that was keeping me on there, so now that that was for the most part going away, I had no reason to stay on the site. And in the weeks leading up to that update, I was like, when this update rolls out, I am leaving Miiverse, fuck this site. And when the update actually did roll out, I stuck to my guns. I stopped posting on there. I left behind a lot of friends I enjoyed talking to on there, and sure, over the years I have gotten back in touch with some of them, but I'd say like 95% of the people I spoke to on Miiverse, I haven't spoken to in nearly 10 years. It was hard to let go, but I still did it, and I wish more people would take that initiative with Twitter. And guess what? There are other sites like Twitter that you could still speak to your friends on, so you don't have to cut them off like I did. But yeah, that's my plea, though I know this will go into the void because people will just continue to rant and rave about how much they hate current day Twitter, even though they still post on Twitter. I say if you still post constantly onto Twitter, your right to complain about Twitter should be revoked, but that's just me. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.